The heat here doesn't just touch you. It oppresses you. The air is heavy, clinging to your skin, smelling of stale rum, sea salt, and the distinct, metallic scent of danger. High above the crashing waves, in a private penthouse, the air conditioning hums, a low drone trying to silence the whispers of the most lethal men in America. Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, predators in silk suits. And walking down the long, velvet corridor toward them is a 30-year-old kid from Hoboken. Look at him closely. Frank Sinatra. On the surface, he is impeccable. The tuxedo fits like a second skin. The fedora is cocked with that trademark arrogance. But look closer. A cold bead of sweat traces the line of his spine. His heart is hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. His hand grips the handle of a leather briefcase so tight his knuckles have turned white. Inside, $2 million in cash, a tribute to the king of the underworld. Every step he takes is a choice. He could turn back. He could stay just a singer. But Frank doesn't want to be just a singer. He wants to be a king. He knows that behind that door lies a darkness that will swallow him whole. And he steps right into it. The door opens. The smoke swallows him. The deal is done. Who was the man behind that door? To the world, he was a god. When he opened his mouth, he didn't just sing. He confessed. He possessed the blue eyes that could undress a soul across a crowded room. He was the chairman of the board, the man who held the world in his palm. But when the applause died, when the lights went out, Frank was left alone with a silence so loud it screamed. We are talking about a man so terrified of being alone that he would surround himself with killers just to feel safe. A man whose ego was fragile as glass, who swung violently from the euphoria of a hit record to the dark, suicidal depths of a hotel bathroom floor. He was a paradox, the toughest guy in the room, with the softest heart, a bully who championed the oppressed, a man who sang about love while drowning in hate. History tells us Frank Sinatra had a mob connection. That is a polite lie. Frank Sinatra didn't just have a connection, he had a lifeline. In the next hour, we are tearing down the poster on the bedroom wall. We are going to examine the machinery of his ambition. We will argue that Frank Sinatra's greatest performance wasn't on stage. It was the act of survival. He danced with the devil not because he was evil, but because he was hungry. A hunger born in the streets of New Jersey that no amount of applause could ever satisfy. Did he use the Mafia? Or did the Mafia own him? The answer might break your heart. Hello, storytellers. Welcome back. Let me take you back to a time before rock and roll broke the rules. A time when America was wearing a gray flannel suit, desperate for a little danger. Enter Francis Albert Sinatra. He wasn't just a singer. He was the original punk rocker in a tuxedo. He taught men how to wear a hat, how to hold a drink, and how to hide a broken heart. He invented cool. But cool came with a price tag. A price paid in blood, favors, and secrets. Today, we are going beyond the music. We are tracking the footsteps of a giant through the mud. From the glorious highs of Las Vegas to the terrifying lows of FBI investigations. Grab your drink. Dim the lights. This is the story of the voice versus the mob. Let's begin. To understand the man, you have to understand the mud he rose from. Hoboken, New Jersey, 1915. While Manhattan glittered across the river like a diamond, Hoboken was the coal dust under its fingernail. On December 12th, in a cold kitchen on Monroe Street, a baby boy was born, but he didn't cry. He was blue, silent. It was a brutal birth. The doctor, in a panic, used forceps to rip the child from the womb, slashing his cheek, his neck, and tearing his ear. Thinking the infant was dead, he laid the small, limp body on the cold counter. But his grandmother wouldn't accept it. She grabbed the boy and held him under a faucet of freezing cold water. The shock hit him. His chest heaved. And finally, Frank Sinatra screamed. That was his first introduction to the world. Pain, trauma, and a refusal to die. Those scars on his face. He would carry them forever. They called him Scarface in school. He was skinny, fragile, and looked like he would break in a strong wind. But inside that broken packaging was a nuclear reactor of ambition. The operator of that reactor was his mother, Dolly Sinatra. If Frank was the voice, Dolly was the muscle. She was a midwife, a bar owner, and a political power broker in the gritty streets of New Jersey. She dressed Frank in expensive clothes that other kids couldn't afford, making him a target for bullies, yet demanding he fight back. She loved him fiercely, but she punished him brutally. She would hit him with a small bat she kept behind the bar, then buy him a brand new suit to apologize. This was the confusing, violent love that wired Frank's brain. He learned early on that love and pain were the same thing. He learned that to be safe, you had to be powerful. And most importantly, he learned that if you want something in this life, you don't ask, you take it. But ambition needs a spark. And for Frank, the lightning struck in 1935. Imagine a 19-year-old Frank. He's working odd jobs, unloading trucks, feeling the crushing weight of a mediocre life. One night, he takes his girlfriend, Nancy, to see the biggest star in the world, Bing Crosby. Bing wasn't like the opera singers of the past. He didn't shout. He whispered. He used the microphone like a lover. The audience was mesmerized. But Frank wasn't looking at the audience. He was dissecting the man on stage. He watched how Crosby held the mic, how he didn't sweat, how easy it looked. In the darkness of that theater, something clicked. He turned to Nancy, his voice shaking with absolute certainty. He pointed at the stage and said, "Someday, that's gonna be me up there." Nancy probably smiled, thinking it was just a boy's dream. But Frank wasn't dreaming. He was planning. He quit his job the next day. No safety net. No plan B. Let's stop here, because this is the first crucial lesson from the life of Frank Sinatra. We often think success starts with talent, but Frank didn't have the best voice. Not yet. He didn't have the looks. He didn't have the connections. What he had was audacity. The lesson here is about visualizing the destination. Frank didn't wait for permission to be a singer. He inhabited the reality of being a star before he earned a single dime. He carried himself like royalty even when he was broke. He understood a fundamental truth. The world treats you exactly how you treat yourself. If you walk into a room like a waiter, they will order a drink. If you walk in like the owner, they will stand up. Frank Sinatra decided, at 19, that he was the owner. Now, he just needed the world to catch up. But to bridge the gap between Hoboken and Hollywood, he would need a shortcut. And in 1,930 seconds, America, the fastest shortcut was the Mafia. By the early 1,940 seconds, Frank Sinatra wasn't just a singer. He was a phenomenon, a contagion. They called it Sinatra Mania. Before this, singers stood still and sang to the parents. Frank, he held onto the microphone stand like it was a woman's waist. He sang to the daughters. He was making $50,000 a year when the average American made $2,000. He had the world at his feet. The skinny kid from Hoboken had become the Sultan of Swoon. But here is the danger of getting everything you want too quickly. You start to believe you are the source of the light, rather than just the vessel. The arrogance began to set in. He started punching journalists. He threw tantrums on set. He cheated on his wife, Nancy, not in the shadows, but in the headlines. He truly believed he was untouchable. He thought he was a god. But the thing about gods is, the higher they build their temples, the harder they fall when the earth shakes. And the earth began to shake from the underground. Remember that hunger we talked about? To get to the top, Frank needed out of a restrictive contract with bandleader Tommy Dorsey. Dorsey wouldn't budge. He owned 43% of Frank's lifetime earnings, a slavery contract. So, legend has it, Frank made a call. A few days later, Willie Moretti, an underboss of the Genovese crime family, paid Dorsey a visit. The story goes that Moretti shoved a gun into Dorsey's mouth and told him, either your signature is on that paper or your brains are. Frank was free. But freedom bought with blood money is just another form of debt. By 1950, the whispers turned into shouts. The press started asking questions about Havana, about the mobsters backstage. And suddenly, the public mood shifted. The boys coming home from World War II didn't want to hear a skinny draft dodger crooning love songs. They wanted rough, real heroes. Frank was becoming yesterday's news. Then came the avalanche. It is 1952, the darkest year of Frank Sinatra's life. He had left his wife and children for the Hollywood goddess, Ava Gardner. It was a love affair made of gasoline and dynamite. She was the only person on earth more volatile than him. When she left him, it didn't just break his heart. It shattered his identity. His movies were flopping. His record label, Columbia, dropped him. His agent dropped him. The IRS was chasing him for massive tax debt. But the final blow didn't happen in a courtroom. It happened on stage at the Copacabana in New York. Picture this moment. The club is packed. Frank steps up to the mic. He needs this show. He opens his mouth to sing, and nothing comes out. Dust. His vocal cords, ravaged by stress, alcohol, and despair, had hemorrhaged. The voice was gone. The silence in that room was louder than any applause he had ever heard. He stood there, a king stripped of his crown, naked before his court. He walked off stage into the cold New York night. Imagine him walking down Times Square, thousands of people passing him by. A year ago, they would have ripped his clothes off for a souvenir. Now, they looked right through him. He was a ghost. He went back to his empty apartment. He turned on the gas stove. He sat on the floor, staring at the blue flame, waiting for the end. He was 37 years old, and in his mind, Francis Albert Sinatra was already dead. Why do we fall? We fall because we build our identity on things that can be taken away. Frank fell because he thought Frank Sinatra was the applause. He thought he was the money. He thought he was the women on his arm. When those things vanished, he felt he had ceased to exist. But here is the profound lesson from the abyss. The boy had to die for the man to be born. That night, staring at the gas flame, Frank didn't kill himself. Something else died instead. His vanity died. His entitlement died. The crooner with the bow tie died. In that total darkness, stripped of his entourage, stripped of his mob protection, stripped even of his voice, he found something harder, something real. He realized that pain wasn't something to hide. Pain was an instrument. If he ever sang again, he wouldn't just sing the notes. He would sing the scars. He would sing the divorce. He would sing the silence of that walk through Times Square. Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which he would rebuild his life. He stopped trying to be the nice boy from Hoboken. He accepted the villain, the lover, the fighter, and the loser inside him. He was ready to make the greatest comeback in the history of show business. Not because he wanted to be famous again, but because he had nothing left to lose. And a man with nothing to lose is the most dangerous man in the world. They say there are no second acts in American lives. Frank Sinatra proved them wrong. Desperate, broke, and humiliated, he begged for a role in a movie called From Here to Eternity. The character was Maggio Eschini, scrappy Italian kid who gets beaten to death. Frank didn't act that role. He lived it. He poured every ounce of his pain, his rejection, and his anger into that character. He did it for $8. 0, 0, 0 peanuts. But when the world saw him on that screen, they didn't see the Sultan of Swoon anymore. They saw a man who had bled. He won the Oscar. And just like that, the phone started ringing again. The phoenix rose from the ashes, but he wasn't the same bird. The feathers were darker. The claws were sharper. The boy from Hoboken was gone. The chairman of the board had arrived. His voice changed. The sweet syrup of the 1,940 seconds was replaced by whiskey and cigarette smoke. It was deeper, richer, and filled with a heartbreaking ache. He wasn't singing to teenage girls anymore. He was singing to the lonely, the divorced, the drinkers sitting at the end of the bar at 2 a.m. He created the concept of the concept album. In the wee small hours, only the lonely. These weren't just collections of songs. They were novels in musical form. He turned his personal tragedy into high art. He taught men that it was okay to cry, as long as you wore a tuxedo while doing it. But the greatest change wasn't in his voice. It was in his spine. Let's talk about Las Vegas in the 1,950 seconds. It was the Mississippi of the West. Segregation was brutal. Black artists, like Sammy Davis Jr. or Nat King Cole, could perform on stage, but they couldn't sleep in the hotel. They couldn't gamble in the casino, and they had to enter through the kitchen. Frank Sinatra saw this, and the bully inside him, the part of him that hated injustice, woke up. One day at the Sands Hotel, Frank walked into the manager's office. The Sands was mob-controlled. These were dangerous men. But Frank was their golden goose. He looked them in the eye and laid down the law. If Sammy can't stay here, I don't sing here. If he can't walk through the front door, I'm walking out the back. He didn't just threaten. He stopped the show. He tore up his contract. The mob blinked. They caved. Because of Frank Sinatra, the color barrier in Las Vegas began to crack. He used the power the underworld gave him to force the world into the light. He wasn't just a tough guy anymore. He was a stand-up guy. Frank Sinatra died in 1998. The lights of Las Vegas were dimmed in his honor. But what is his true legacy? It's not the 150 million records sold. It's not the 11 Grammys. The lesson Frank leaves us is about authenticity. He was never a saint. He was a sinner, a brawler, a difficult man. But he never apologized for being human. He owned his mistakes just as proudly as he owned his victories. In a world that constantly tells us to be perfect, to hide our flaws, to filter our lives, Frank Sinatra stands there, tie undone, drink in hand, telling us to live loudly, to fall hard, and to get back up. Success isn't about avoiding the darkness. It's about surviving it so you can sing about it. He showed us that a life lived without regrets is the only life worth living. He did it all. He stood tall, and he did it his way. So, what do we take away from the life of Francis Albert Sinatra? We started with a skinny boy in Hoboken who looked at a superstar and had the audacity to say, "That's gonna be me." He taught us that you don't wait for the world to give you permission. You grab the microphone and you announce yourself. We walked with him through the fire, watching him lose everything: his voice, his love, his pride. He taught us that rock bottom is not a grave. It is a foundation. The death of his ego was the birth of his true self. And finally, we saw the chairman, a man who used his power to break down doors for others. He taught us that legacy isn't about being a saint. It's about being authentic. It's about facing the music, even when the song is sad. My friends, we live in a world that is obsessed with filters. We want to show only our best angles. We are terrified of failure. But Frank Sinatra is proof that the most beautiful songs are written with the ink of our mistakes. Don't hide your scars. Don't hide your heartbreak. Wear your head at a tilt. Look the world in the eye. Your life is a movie. And in this movie, you are not the victim. You are the lead actor. You are the director. And just like Frank, you have the power to write your own third act. It won't always be easy. You will get knocked down. You might even lose your voice. But remember this, the show isn't over until you say it's over. I want to hear from you. Which version of Frank resonates with you the most? The hungry dreamer, the fallen idol, or the wise king? Or maybe you have your own rock-bottom story that turned into a comeback. Share your story in the comments below. We read every single one, because this channel isn't just about history. It's about us. If you found value in this journey, please hit that like button. It helps us keep these stories alive against the algorithm. And if you want to understand the other side of the coin, the man who might have been Frank's dark reflection, click right here to watch our deep dive into Al Capone, the King of Chicago. Thank you for spending your time with us. I'm Peter. Keep seeking the truth. Keep telling stories. And until next time, do it your way.